The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewHouse.com. Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Glad you're joining us. I'm Bill Pucko. We're happy to have old friend Dan Moriarty back with us.
Thanks for having me.
And our co-host, Mike Catalana.
Yep.
Pat Duffy.
No.
Hey, it's when Christmas has become like the NBA day. It's the showcase. I got games from noon until past midnight. Any of these you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, first of all, it's a chance to see the starters play, because it's become this thing that Greg Popovich started around the league, and I can't necessarily blame the coaches for it. There's too many regular season games in the NBA, but there's all sorts of resting going on during the season. These games take center stage. It's probably a good opportunity for us to actually see some of the superstars play basketball.
It's almost like a response to Thanksgiving being owned by the NFL. Now the NBA has claimed Christmas.
The NBA's a hot product right now. Their stars are stars. They have competitive teams. The game is a better product than most. They have a progressive commissioner who thinks differently. I love the product, and I've said it to Dan on many occasions. It's a better product than college basketball, and I like when it gets showcased. Yeah, it's Christmas Day, but you're right. Everybody sort of buys into it. And the resting of players, even that the league is looking to help next year. They're going to really cut down on the back-to-back games, which I think makes it very difficult for players, especially as they get older, with an 82-game schedule. So I'm looking forward to it. It is Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it depends on how much you get to see, but I think the product is really, really good in the NBA.
I've always thought the NBA is like the progressive league when there's something to be forwarded, that the NBA is one of those, an operation that kind of gets it.
Sure, but you also have to be aware of who's buying your product, right? The NFL knows that it's guys in their 40s and 50s that own homes in Middle America that are paying for their things. I don't know if the NBA knows who's consuming their product right now. They're aiming at young kids, but those young kids have 40 and 50-year-old Midwestern parents that aren't going to buy them things. I would love to see in 10 years where the NBA is with this progressive stuff, because it sounds great, and it looks awesome, and it's awe-inspiring, but we're not everybody in America. There are people that are upset that the NBA has allowed players to go and take the stances that they have, where the NFL has kind of backed off on that stuff. And there are people that are upset that they let their players come out and endorse political candidates, and they almost focus on stuff like that. I would like to know if the league is still rah-rah and saying this is good for us 10 years from now, when you get to see where the fruits of your labor ended up.
I agree with Pat in that sense of where they're progressive. I think they're progressive in looking at their product. I mean, and that's like I said that about the back-to-back games. I mean, they actually think about their players. And I think about the way, and the thing about the NBA, you can't get too top-heavy, but you start looking at the quality players around the league, and it's worked for them. And they are protecting those guys, and the numbers are up. So to your point, yes, some of that stuff I can see where people might be taken aback. We don't live in an NBA city. It's a little different. You go into an NBA city, especially if it's a good product, and it's off the charts now, and they're getting a lot of people. And I don't think that part is going to go back. Yeah, people excited if LeBron James is standing up there for Hillary Clinton or whatever it happens to be. No, but I think that gets dismissed a little more in the NBA.
You're a sports talk show veteran that you are. I mean, it used to be you couldn't talk NBA in this town, and now it's right there.
Yeah, not necessarily specific teams, although the Warriors have changed that a bit and the Cavs have changed that a bit. Like Mike just said, we're not an NBA city, so we don't have a team to talk about. But the stars themselves, LeBron in many ways, you can talk LeBron. It's like you don't talk golf, you talk Tiger. Yeah. It's similar in sports radio when it comes to LeBron. You were talking about who's the consumer. We may not live in an NBA city. I've spent more money on going to NBA games than I have hockey, football, or any other sport. Right now, those are some of the biggest superstars we have in the sporting landscape, not only in this country, but worldwide.
But they're not just superstars. I mean, Dan, Mike, you guys know the most impressive athletes of the four more major sports are NBA players. If you go watch an NBA game live, you sit there with your mouth open at what these guys can do.
Yeah. You're close to them, you can see them.
Well, that is the biggest thing. We've talked about this before. I went to see Eichel McDavid. It was great. I really enjoyed it. But you know what it's like when you go to a hockey game. They're only out there for a period of time. You sort of have to find them no matter where you are. Go to an NBA game. You watch Russell Westbrook play basketball. You have to be impressed. Physically, he might be one of the greatest athletes to ever even play in the NBA. His combination of speed, skill, power, even if you dislike the team, don't like the way he plays, you are impressed. And he's on the court in a regular time, in a regular game. For what, 35, 38 minutes, whatever he's on there, you can see him a lot.
That's why the schedule has to be fixed, though, because it's a Broadway play. You're there to see the stars.
Sure.
You're not there to see the backup players.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. We'll talk the NFL next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. The Buffalo Bills Quote of the Week was brought to you by the Rochester Geico office. Give the Rochester Geico team a chance to see how much you could save on all your insurance needs. Call or stop by the office on West Henrietta Road, open Monday through Saturday. Our Geico Rochester Quote of the Week, we dig back for a Marv Levy one?
Yeah, two parts of that. One, the 25 players. This Bills franchise, I don't think, has 25 quality players. They have some talent, but some of those talented players, there's issues, maybe with age or injury. The other part, I think, if you look towards coaches and who they are, you know, Marv is a guide a little bit, because I think everybody wants to say, I want that coach that's the coordinator. I want the guy who's calling the plays. I want this. Marv was a delegator. Marv had players, but he also had coordinators, and he was very good at doing that. There are different ways to do it in the NFL, or to be good at it, to pick the right people, put them in a position to do their job. It's the way Marv did it, and it worked out pretty well.
So, guys, is there any question that the 25 players, though, is the most important part of that equation?
Well, absolutely, right? And you go to that point, he was a delegator, right? Well, he also had, 6 Pro Football Hall of Famers on his roster when he was there?
Marv did it a different way, but I kind of miss that a little bit. And it's not just being disconnected. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're connected, but you know how to handle people and put them in a spot. And you're right. He did have quality players. He did have quality coaches. But he knew how to get the most out of those coaches and out of those players. And he knew how to motivate. He knew how to do that. You know, that team won a lot. They just didn't win the last game, but they won an awful lot.
This portion of the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House, is brought to you by Connors and Ferris. As we continue to talk about the Buffalo Bills, Danny, do you think we'll see a Super Bowl champion in your lifetime?
My lifetime. Yeah, well, it's... First of all, it's nice that the team is staying here. I'm going back to that. The Pagula's keeping the team in Buffalo, so we're obviously going to see this team here for many, many years. So there's always that opportunity, that chance. I mean, you think back to some of those 90s Patriot teams and how awful some of those teams were. Mm-hmm. They got a good quarterback, they got a good coach, and they turned the entire thing around. Buffalo has to find a quarterback. That's the number one thing. You need to find a quarterback. So if they find a quarterback in my lifetime, then they got that opportunity.
And it always seems like they're getting close, you know? We thought it might be lost. We thought it might be Edwards.
Is where you end up when you're in that mediocre spot. You think you are closer than you are. But I will say this, as you look at the AFC and you look where everything is, look, New England is New England, and they're great, and they have Brady. But without Gronk, they're at least human in that sense. And you look at that AFC, and if the Bills would have put a better defense on the field, I'm not saying they win the Super Bowl, but you look around and you go, who scares you in the AFC at the moment besides the Patriots? Oakland is good, but for 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, the Bills were more than competing with them. That's the shame of it for this season. If they would have had a better defense on the field, even with Tyrod Taylor, even with the level he was playing, I think they could have been more competitive. But I also don't want to get caught up into that thinking, oh, they're so close, because we know they still got a long way to go.
I don't know. I don't even.
You're the guy who picks them every week.
Well,
I feel for you.
I don't know what to say anymore. There's so many excuses. We're years away from quarterback again, right? Unless Cardell Jones ends up being this monster Dak Prescott that nobody saw coming. And I'm not completely convinced, if we're going to be completely honest here, that Tyrod Taylor is done in a Bills uniform. I could see them doing the Seattle thing they did with Russell Wilson and former Buffalo Bills legend Matt Flynn, where they signed Flynn to a contract and then just kept rifling through guys until they found the one. If If you don't have Tyrod next year, what do you got? Nothing.
It's like knee-jerk almost. We say we throw the 17 years out. Boy, that's a long time.
It is a long time. But I will say this to Pat. When you go back to what you're talking about with Seattle, they had signed Matt Flynn. He had not really played for them.
Sure.
And then they looked and go, wow, this Wilson kid is pretty good. They've seen 2 years of Tyrod and what he is and where he could go next. And I think that's the reason why you part ways with him.
At least they drafted Cardell Jones, though. At least they got back into those waters of drafting
In
quarterbacks.
the 4th round!
Yeah, but
No, but at least they're drafting quarterbacks. You're not going to find a guy if you're not actually drafting
You know
any
this,
guys.
and he knows this. Who's drafted more quarterbacks than any for the last decade?
The Patriots have.
The Patriots have.
Derek
draft
Carr, Oakland
quarterbacks.
found him in the 2nd round.
I think there's an echo in here. You might want to check that out.
I just like the sounds of this.
Again, we're making him happy.
Here's a look at the standings for our NFL Picks contest, brought to you by Connors and Ferris. My victory is nearly official with a 5-game lead now. The winner of this contest will have a donation made in their name to Hunter's Hope. This week, Greg Connors is selecting for the Connors and Ferris team. Greg has evened his record at 15-15 after a rough start. This portion of the Rochester Press Box brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not, it's next. The Press Box Trivia Question brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress, now $977. Save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. Here's a look at the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress. Now $977. You save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. We call it Like It or Not. I'll go you first. I like Lane Kiffin's new mantra that perhaps he stole from Nick Saban. It says, you don't get what you want, you get what you deserve.
If that was the case, if you got what you deserved, he'd currently be on fire right now. Lane Kiffin is the worst human being that ever existed, right? And he's the luckiest guy. No, listen, Larry, first of all, let's just talk coaching, right? Abandons Tennessee after getting blown out in Oakland and having an owner come out and have a 45-minute scathing review of his thing. Goes to USC, lights stuff up there, ends up in the evil empire of Alabama, and still can only get the head coaching job at FAU. Oh, by the way, along that time, there are rumors that he slept with Nick Saban's wife and daughter. Also, video of him trying to pick up co-eds while he was married as a head coach in 3 different cities. So, back to the original quote, if he got what he deserved, he would currently be aflame. He doesn't deserve another head coaching shot. And I get that. I get what FAU is doing. You want the name, and he's a pretty good recruiter. But this is going to end up in a disaster, too. Get your last good look at Lane Kiffin, because you're never going to hear from him ever again.
Either one of you guys want to take that on?
Wow.
You want to put him out? Because he's on
Half
fire
that
right
information came off of a message board.
Yeah.
Those are pretty reliable.
I think Lane Kiffin went to adult boot camp
Oh, listen to this. You're going to buy his BS?
with Nick Saban. And I think if that would have actually happened with Nick Saban, he would have been fired before then, is the case. And I think it's actually good that that's what he got as a head coaching job, because he does owe it to the profession to start a little bit lower again. And Saban brought him on in the first place, and he needed that. The guy is a talented offensive mind, but he's a bit of he is a knucklehead.
No, what are you talking about? No, he went to Nick
Excuse
Saban
me.
boot camp.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hot Take says he is the worst human being
He
ever.
couldn't get
ever.
a job. He lost a job at the University of Houston to Major Applewhite.
That's a cool name, though.
Houston wouldn't take a risk on you. What I said was true, everything.
Danny, quickly, like it or not, can we save the Pro Bowl with a dodgeball game?
I'm still trying to forget the whole reference to the overhead projection press conference that the Oakland Raiders had. Al Davis had when he fired Lane Kiffin. Like it or not, honestly, look, I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in probably a decade. Who really cares? If maybe the same people who watch the Pro Bowl watch these stupid events.
It always gets numbers.
It does get numbers.
2 words.
Somebody's watching. Do you watch?
2 words.
Go ahead.
Blame Goodell.
I like that. Like it or not, brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Unfinished Business is next. The Press Box Stat of the Week brought to you by Fiondoc and Fiondoc. Remember, if you've made the wrong choice, it's time to make the right choice. Fiondoc and Fiondoc, New York's DWI leader for over 35 years. Visit nydwi.com. Celebrate the holidays with delicious Dunkin' coffee. Stop by Dunkin' Donuts for 2 K-Cup boxes for $15.99 or 3 pounds of packaged coffee for just $19.99. America runs on Dunkin'. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Happy holidays, everyone. This is Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
Bill asked Dan earlier, do you think the Bills will win a Super Bowl in your lifetime? I want to tell you a story, something I realized this weekend. A friend of mine, Jerry, he's in his late 50s. He's been tailgating with me since I was 4 years old. I've had season tickets forever, right? Jerry tells me a story about how he used to get on the bus and go down the rock pile as a 10-year-old kid with his little brother and watch the Juice play, and how everyone would stand up as soon as OJ touched the ball, no matter how down the Bills were. And he talks about how he lived through the down years with Joe Ferguson and the Super Bowl years and how great it was. And that's when I come into the picture, and I was there with him for the rest of the time. And he looks at me and he goes, I always thought that I was going to be around to watch the Bills win the Super Bowl. And the way that things are going now, I'm not so sure. And that's when it hit me. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not in fantastic shape. I drink a little too much. I smoke cigarettes. I'm not sure I'm going to be around when the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl. I can remember being a teenage kid watching the throwback in Tennessee and thinking, this sucks, but you know what? We're going to get there eventually. And looking the way things are going, Rex and Whaley and no quarterback and everything blowing up again, I don't know anymore. And I have children that I love very much. But thinking about me not seeing a Bills Super Bowl victory makes me more sad than anything has ever made me before. Merry Christmas.
When it happens, if it happens, you're not going to know what to do with yourself.
No, I've always wanted to know what it's like to flip over a car. That's my plan, is to go find a car with a bunch of people and flip it over. Maybe set it on fire, much like Lane Kiffin.
Sounds like 2004 when the Red Sox finally won. Nice.
You flip over a car?
Danny, go ahead.
Well, Billy just mentioned the Red Sox, and for me, this upcoming Yankees season is one of the more fascinating that I can remember in my lifetime for 2 reasons. One, Yankee fans, can you be patient while Billy's Red Sox maybe run roughshod over the American League, and the Yankees have a somewhat average season? And Brian Cashman, can you do it a different way? This is kind of phase 2 of his career. When you look at his tenure as GM of the Yankees, many people have always said it's the easiest job in baseball, easiest job in sports. I could do what Brian Cashman does. All he does is go out and sign guys to big free agent checks. He's basically a college recruiter in some sense. Just go out and get the biggest name guy or take some big contract from some other team. This time, he's got to build a young core for the Yankees. That way they can do what the Red Sox did this offseason and go out and get a guy like Chris Sale. Push your chips to the middle of the table. But first, he needs those franchise cornerstones. That's exactly what the Red Sox did. They got their killer bees. The Yankees need some young guys to build around. Once they do, then they can sign those big free agent deals. But can Yankee fans be patient, and can Cashman do it a different way?
Would you sign Chapman? Did you like the signing?
Well, I hate Chapman, so I can't root for Chapman. I still can't get past the story from a couple off seasons ago, the reason why he was suspended. So I don't mind the contract for a closer. I'd rather have a different closer.
Mike?
I was in Buffalo recently for a game, a Sabres game, and I was downtown a little bit and got to experience a little bit more like a fan, and it made me think about the Pagulas and what they've done. And you talk about the positives of, obviously keeping the Bills around, keeping the Sabres around, building up downtown Buffalo, and all that is good. But as we look to 2017, I'm really hoping that the Pagulas and that whole group have a big year in 17. And when I say a big year, I mean to take control of their own franchises. We've seen a little bit of that with the Sabres, and because of Jack Eichel and some of the players around him, I think you can see positives going forward, because any fan, even on a bad night, can watch that young guy and say, that's where we're going forward. We need this from the Bills organization too. We need some focus. We need them to take control of their own franchise and move it forward. People are going to love the Bills. No matter what Pat says, he's hanging in there. Fans will be with this team, and they will want to see progress. We have not seen progress in the last couple of years, and I think this goes on ownership. 2017 needs to be the year they take back their own franchise, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Let's see how it works out for them.
If the Pagulas have a good 2017, I think there's a better chance we all have a good year.
Even Patriot fans.
Especially Patriot fans. This portion of the Rochester Press Box presented by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Danny, as always, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, happy holidays.
Thanks.
And happy holidays to you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.